Today in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to go over exporting a high-res PDF for print. So I have two files open right now. I actually have my interior book, all my pages, my 16-page book, plus I have my Illustrator file here for my cover. So we're going to be going over how to save both of those. Going back to InDesign, and creating the high-res PDF for the interior files first. We've already gone through, I've proofed everything, I've made sure my spelling is correct, there's no errors as far as that goes, and I'm ready now to make a high-res proof. Okay, so first step, I'm going to export it. You can press Command E to export, and it'll bring up this dialog box, or you can go up to File, Export, and the same dialog box will come up. How I like to save my files is I like to make a file called Final, and then I like to save it in my to print folder. This just makes it easier when I revisit a project later on. Maybe the client needs files to be reprinted. It's easiest to know which ones you sent to print last, and if they need to be changed or not, then you can do that. But I'm going to pick my to print file because we're creating this to print. Right now, I have it set up as a reflowable EPUB because that was the last thing I worked on. But I want to actually create a PDF for print, not an interactive PDF. So PDF for print. I'm going to save. So the next dialog box that comes up is this Export Adobe PDF. And when I send anything to print, sometimes your printer will actually give you presets to set your project to, but I'm just going to go through how I usually do it for press, and I'm going to choose my press quality. Okay, and then I'm going to go through each tab individually. So my general settings, I'm going to go to my pages. I'm going to make sure that all my pages are selected. If I select a range, it's only going to select the range that I've indicated. So I want all of my pages because it's going to export my blank pages as well, and that's important for our impositions when we actually print our printed file. We are also going to, you can change your default, your viewing settings. This isn't important. It just depends on how you want to view it when it comes into Acrobat. So I'm just going to leave that default. We're actually going to leave all of these viewing settings as the default settings. But we're going to come back over here for pages, and we're going to export as pages and not spreads. If we export it as spreads, it will export it in this view that you see right now, and your printer will not be able to put them in the proper order to print correctly. So single pages. We're not going to create separate PDF files. Everything in this dialog box here will actually stay as is. Okay, so the next tab that we go up to is compression. So for color images or grayscale images, I would always try to keep it the same. Okay, so you want to downsample anything that is above 450 DPIs, they're going to downsample it to 300 DPIs. Okay, all of our images should be saved as 300 DPI. It's going to compress it to a JPEG, and it's going to keep the maximum quality. And these will be the same for your grayscale images as well, and monochrome images. So any monochrome images, anything over 1800 pixels per inch will be downsized to 1200. Okay, so we are just going to, as a rule of thumb, I would normally just keep this as is. Our marks and bleeds. So for our marks and bleeds, in this book, I do not actually have anything bleeding off the edge, but if I did, I would make sure that my bleeds were set up properly. What you can do is, even though I don't have a bleed, I'm still going to put on my crop mark. If your printer asks for crop marks to be off, then I would resend it without it, but as a rule of thumb, I would always include the crop marks even if I don't have a bleed. So I'm going to select my crop marks. The default weight and type, everything there is fine. My bleed, I am not going to turn on my bleed. If I did have a bleed and I had it set up already in my document, I could just select this box that says use document bleed settings, or I could turn it off and actually select a custom bleed size, but we aren't going to do any of that. We're just going to put it back to 0, and I'm not going to include a slug area. If you needed to include anything in a slug or any kind of information for your printer, this is where you would do it. Okay, output. So again, sometimes your printer will send you presets. What I normally do is I convert to my destination. So whatever I've set up here for the destination, that will be the color. It changes any kind of images or anything like that to it, but you always want to double check that it's actually done it. So I'm going to leave these were the default settings, and I'm actually going to leave them as my settings. I'm not going to change them. Advanced, I don't change anything in here either. Okay. Security options. The security tab, unless you want it to be password protected, I wouldn't change anything in here either. I usually just leave that one blank. And then the summary will actually go over all of the things that we've changed in there. So my general, it tells me all my options that I have, and you can go through and double check those. But we are actually going to export this and check our PDF. One other thing you can do, if you wanted your PDF to just open up instead of going into your Finder and finding the document, you can actually change your viewing settings and change view PDF after exporting, and then it will automatically open up for you. You don't have to go searching for it. I'm going to export, and then we're going to double check our document as in our PDF. Okay, so just a quick glance. I'm going to zoom down here. We have my half title, then my blank page, title page, and then it goes into my opening act and all my other pages. And remember, we're doing a single page view. Okay. So, I mean, at a glance, everything looks okay, but what I want you to get in the habit of doing is taking a look at your colors. So, you know, because I'm printing a book and it's multiple pages, black is the key color that we want to have. We don't want to have multiple colors. When you start doing novels and things like that, having other colors besides black becomes very costly. So it's very important that it's just one color on the inside. So I would pay attention to all of my type and my images, and one way to go in there, because again, right now everything looks black, but let's go in and actually take a look to make sure that all of our colors are what they're supposed to be. Okay, to do that, over on the side, you go to print production, and if that guy, usually it will have this little panel over here. If you do not have this toolbar over here, especially this print production tab, just go into view, tools, and make sure to open up your print production panel. Okay, and at the very top we have this option that says output preview. It's going to bring up a dialog box that has all of these options in here. You usually click simulate overprinting, and then we can go in and actually see, we can get it to show us our different colors. So I'm going to go to CMYK, because we are printing, it should be in CMYK. And I want to make sure that I can see everything that is CMYK. So you're going to have to go through your book page by page and make sure that all of your elements are there. Okay. The view sometimes is a little wonky on these things. I just keep on viewing in and viewing out, zoom in and zoom out with Command minus and the plus. It always seems to give me this issue. Your computer may not. Okay. So again, all of my elements seem to be there. But what I'm going to do is, because this is the process plate, if I turn on process plate, it will take away all the colors, and I want to turn on process black. I want to see everything that is black. Oh, but if I keep on turning on my other process plates, you'll notice that my colophon over here at the back, it has all of the colors in there. And that's not actually what it's supposed to be. Right now it's rich black. So if I were to print this, this would print 4 colors instead of the 1 color that I actually wanted it to print. Let's go through and make sure that nothing else has those colors in there. So I'm actually going to click off my process black and just keep my process cyan, magenta, and yellow on. So you see that those are the only ones showing right now. And if I go up through my document, you'll also see that the rest of my document is rich black as well. And if I hover over my type, you can see the percentages of change in the plate, the process plate area. So just watch it change, so you can see it change. So I know now that I'm going to actually have to go back in and make a change to my document. I must have had a paragraph style set up that had rich black in it. So it looks like the rest of my file, I do have some up at the front too. So this is the time now where I've proofed my document and I actually have to go back in and change that document. So I'm going to close out of there. I'm going to go back to my document, my InDesign document, and check my text. Okay, so that is black, and actually you'll notice here that I have this rich black sitting in my swatches panel. So what I'm going to do is to try to quickly do this is I'm going to delete it, and then it's going to ask me what I want to replace it with. So I'm actually just going to change it to black. Now remember that there's a difference between registration and black. You never want to use registration for body copy. It's really only ever going to be used for your crop marks if you're creating them yourselves. Okay, now let's go back down to our colophon, and it should now be completely black. But let's take a look at our third body paragraph and go down to character color, and it is black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another document. Let's go in and double check that guide too. Okay, so now that color has been taken out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and export this again. So Command E, I'm going to replace this, save, And it should have remembered my settings from last time, but I'll just go in and give it a quick look. And export. Okay, and so remember my print production tab over here, go up to output preview. And so if I turn off that process black plate, I'll be able to quickly see if anything that's turned off will have that process plate. And you'll be able to see quickly if there's anything that has the cyan, magenta, or yellow colors in it, and then we know to go in and change that. You'll notice too that your crop marks are still up because those are registration. So all of my pages, there's nothing sitting on any of my pages, so that means that black is the only plate that's being used. So let's take a look at our RGB colors, okay? Because we have a CMYK document, we shouldn't have any images that are RGB, but let's go in and just double check. So if I turn on the RGB, you'll notice that the trim marks turned off because they are registration. I could actually go in and turn on my registration color, my crop marks come back up. If anything else comes back up in this preview, you know that you have to go into your actual document and change that. The only thing for registration that should come up are your crop marks or any other kind of registration marks. Let's go back up to RGB. And again, it looks like I have no RGB color issues in here. And if you had an image, you would just go in and convert your image to CMYK or even grayscale, depending on what image if you were working with a Photoshop document, or if you're working with an EPS, you would just go in and change the colors to a CMYK color. So we'll go back to CMYK, and everything should be good. So now that we have the interior file set up, we'll actually go and set up our cover file. So I'm going to close it here, and I'm going to open up my Illustrator file. And I already set up my fold lines and my crop marks in an earlier tutorial. You should have watched that already when you set up your document. If not, I'll link it down below in the description. But you'll remember that our front cover is supposed to be 2 colors, okay? So what that will include, for this purpose, we will actually be, see, if you look at my barcode, it's actually rich black. Now, the barcode and the price are actually usually printed on the book afterwards, but for the sake of this project, we are going to put it on right now. And I am going to make sure that those colors are actually changed to the colors in my document before I set up. So this is my darkest color, so I'm actually going to change my barcode and my my price and my ISBN number to the dark blue. Again, remember, if we were to actually be printing this, it would be overprinted afterwards. Okay, so I'm just going to change my barcode, my ISBN number, and my price to my colors, my dark color that I have over here. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to save my cover and go in and check my colors in Adobe Acrobat. So I'm going to go to File, and instead of going to Export like we did in InDesign, we're actually going to go to Save As. And again, I'm saving it in my Final folder and my To Print folder. And we're not saving it as an AI file, we're going to save it as a PDF. So the Adobe PDF preset, I am going to change to press quality. I am going to leave all of my options as the defaults. Compression, I'm going to leave them again as the default. So anything over 450 DPIs, it will actually be changed to, it'll downsize it to 300 DPI. Marks and bleeds. Okay, so in our document, we have set up our marks and our bleeds. We've set up our trim marks. And these ones are actually going to be pretty accurate because of how we set them up. Illustrator will let you set up trim marks in the PDF settings, but I've already done it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave all of the marks blank. What I want to do is I want to go down here to my bleed settings, and I'm not actually going to use my document bleed settings here because I want my bleed to extend past and include my crop marks and my fold line. So I'm actually going to extend this about ½ an inch all around. Okay. Output. For the output, I'm going to leave it as convert to destination. Let's take a look to see what happens when we do that, because we do have two colors. Save PDF. All right. So what you're going to do, you're going to zoom in, you're going to take a look around, make sure that we brought in all of our pages. So that was one thing I did not select when we were going through this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to organize, and I know that my fifth one right here is the document that I actually want. I'm just going to delete all these other files up here and delete and OK. And then I'm going to go to close, and I only have the one artwork right here. And I'm going to go to print production, output preview. And you'll notice that it has the two Pantone colors here. And if I turn them off, nothing else is showing. So my process plates, it's only the registration that I'm seeing, and then my spot plates, on my spot plates, it's only the two colors. So I can turn that on so it takes away all of the dark navy blue, and you'll notice that it comes up in black just so you can see it. And so I can just turn those on and off. And then I know that my file is two colors. So I can also go up to show here, and anything CMYK, it actually doesn't have any CMYK elements. It's all spot plates. RGB, nothing RGB, perfect. Again, our registration color should only be our crop marks and our fold lines. And let's go up here to spot color. So when I go to my spot color, it shows everything that's a spot color.